Hey, everybody, welcome back to the She Sells, He Sells podcast, where we are here to change the way you think about sales by teaching you to look at it in a whole new way, like the way we think about shorts in the springtime.
I almost made that your fun fact, but I'm not going
No,
to. Brian, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see Brian's beautiful legs.
I'm wearing my short pants today.
He's wearing his short pants. He feels like it's officially April,
Yeah,
so it's time.
totally. Yeah, spring for me in my brain starts sometime around Martin Luther King weekend in mid-January.
When does fall end? When does shorts weather end and begin?
Sometime after Thanksgiving. So we got about a solid month and a half of no shorts weather.
So true. Why do you like shorts so much?
I don't think it's just me. I think most people prefer shorts.
No, I didn't ask that question. Why do you
Why do
like
I?
shorts so
I
much?
don't know. It makes me feel like I could, if I had to run and chase down like the mailman because I forgot to mail something, I could get out there and speed.
But
Pants
why
are so-
really?
I don't know. I feel like they're more comfortable for me. I don't
Really?
know. Yeah. I don't know. Pants make me feel like it's like a little, a little too formal for my tastes.
Got it.
I think don't they like in the Bahamas? Don't they wear shorts with like business suits and stuff?
Really?
I think so. I don't know.
It might be Bermuda because they're probably Bermuda shorts.
That's where we should retire. Could you imagine? I'd be like ready to step right in.
No, Bermuda's just like North Carolina. Remember?
Oh, I know. That's right. We did hear that.
The climate. Yeah.
Anyway, but I'd be ready to go with my shorts collection. I don't want to brag, but
Yeah, you would. You would. When we first started the video podcast, I did worry about your legs taking over the screen because you do have a prominent view here.
yeah,
But
that's the angle.
they're beautiful legs. So
Yeah.
show them off, baby. If you got it, flaunt it. You know.
Wait till you see how tan I get in the midsummer.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah,
I don't know
me
if I've
neither.
ever seen that, so I'm
I have
excited
not either.
to see
In my
that.
life, I have not seen myself tan.
So we're talking about college today.
Right.
Not going back to college, you and I, although I kind of want to after being on
Do you
so
really?
many college tours. I mean, not really because I don't want to go back to
Doing it. Yeah.
doing it, but it is pretty awesome. The things that
Yeah, like what they offer and what's how it's
and the
different now than it was.
opportunities and yeah. So if you're a loyal listener, you already know, but in case you're not, we have 3 children, and Ava is 17, Emmy is 14, Bennett is 9, and Ava, our oldest, is a junior in high school. And so we are in the thick of college visits.
Yeah.
And I will say we've really we've tiptoed into these.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I know. I've talked to some people and they take like a week or two off and they just hammer them all out. We've definitely not taken that route.
No, yeah, we were on our first one. I think when she was
Last year?
before she
Yeah.
before she became a sophomore, we went and visited she and I and Emmy
That's right. Yeah.
in New York. So we are going to be talking about how these sales skills that we talk about here on the pod all the time really translate to so many different things. And one of them is colleges and college tours. And so if you're listening to this and thinking, I don't have a kid at this phase of life, I have nothing to learn here, you're wrong. Stick around with us.
So wrong.
We're going to take the lessons we learned from these colleges essentially selling themselves to us and translate them into lessons that we can use as entrepreneurs, as business people, as parents, anything. Because again, sales is really influencing someone's beliefs.
Yeah.
It's using your passion and your confidence around something to influence the way someone thinks about it. And then in some cases, you're exchanging money for that belief system or the product or whatever, but not all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did your throat just crack?
Excuse me. Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, if you think about it too, I mean, one of the things we really like to do, we enjoy doing is like sort of seeing the sales piece of everyday life. And I think this fits perfectly into that idea. I mean, if you think about what colleges are doing, they're competing for the same finite group of talented young kids, right? That they want to draw to their institution. So
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. So before we get into that, a fun fact that actually did come to light during this latest round of college visits. I'm going to share about my dear husband, Brian Dempshire. So while we were in Philadelphia for our latest round of college visits, and we took the whole family, but only Brian went on the tour with Ava. And I think it was the day before, I happened to open up social media and I saw a reel or TikTok or something that said, "Do you know you can find out what your customer Uber rating is.
Oh.
And so, you rate your Uber drivers,
Right, yeah.
but they rate you too. And so,
Yeah, I didn't know that.
yeah.
I never
think I
agreed to
knew
that.
but
I'm gonna
you
talk to the
probably
Uber
definitely
people.
did when you clicked agree to
Read the next 9,000
quickly
pages.
install the
Yeah.
app. Yeah. So I didn't realize, I knew that was happening, but I didn't know like we could see it. So you're going to have to Google it yourself because I don't even remember how we
Yeah.
found it. But I went and looked at mine, and I think, you're out of 5 stars. And I think mine was like 4.9 or something. Are you jealous?
No, because I'll tell you why I'm not jealous. Keep going.
4.9. And then you can actually see like the breakdown of that. So I had like all 5-star and like 2 4-stars. And then Brian looked into his, and Brian's rating was 4.8
something.
No, it was 7.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
It's
it
4.8
was.
now.
It was 4.7.
Okay.
But that's like, okay, whatever. But then when you look at the breakdown,
Yeah.
he had 2 1-star ratings, and he is so upset.
I wouldn't say I'm so upset. I'm confused and slightly perturbed by the whole thing.
Oh, perturbed.
So if I hired you to perform a job, I paid you to do the job, how do I get a 1-star, right? I mean, it makes no sense to me.
What do you
I
think
tipped. I mean, I always
Maybe
tip.
you didn't tip enough.
Oh, that's a you problem. That's not me problem.
What do you think
I don't know.
could have done to get your 1 stars?
I do think sometimes when I'm traveling and I'm in an Uber, I'm on the phone and I just like I'm talking to someone. Like I can't not be on the phone. I'm talking to
that's
someone nonstop.
definitely
I know.
a
I'm
problem.
talking to someone nonstop. So I show up and say like, "Hey, I'm Brian," and I get in, and then they drop me off, and I say thanks. Right. So if they give me a 1-star for that for being rude, like I'm working, so I'm not apologizing.
You're
for
not
it.
taking any ownership over
No,
this.
I can't
at all.
imagine. No, there's no way I got a 1. If you didn't like me, if I smelled bad or whatever, and you gave me a 3 because I had BO or something, like, okay, you give me a 1, that's totally unacceptable. I don't see how I could have ever
They
earned
just
a 1.
looked at you. They're like, I don't like this guy.
Yeah, totally. That's what it was.
I don't like him. I
He
look at him.
looks like a guy I don't like. Yeah,
He looks punchable. Your favorite word.
I do use that a lot. He has a punchable face.
That's a toxic.
It's not toxic.
Yes,
but it's
is.
still. I don't know. So anyway, I'm trying to reach out to the folks at Uber
Oh, you are.
to see what I can do about this because I'm disputing the fact that I have 2 1-star ratings. I don't know how.
He's actually not. That would be way too many details.
No, I'm not doing that, but I'd like them to, if they listen, I'd like you to tell me how it's fair that I got a 1-star.
Uber, we want answers.
Yeah, demanding answers. Uber.
Yeah, we want answers.
Yeah,
I just
look up
thought
your
that was
numbers.
funny.
I think you, America, would be surprised what your rider rating is.
Yeah. It's like, I wish I should have looked it up before I shared
Yeah,
this,
I
but
know.
it's like you go into your profile and then I think you go into like privacy or
Yeah.
preferences. I think it's one of those, and you can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, very eye-opening.
Well, I'm going to start giving out 1s until I get an answer. Everyone I get is going to get a
No,
1.
that's not fair. You don't do that to people. It doesn't really matter for you, but it matters for the driver. It's their livelihood.
No, I don't do that. I give them a 5 or I don't do it.
I know. I actually don't think I really do it because
Yeah.
usually you get out and you're just
In
kind
a
of
hurry?
like on to
Yeah.
the next thing. Anyway, well, you did take an Uber to this latest round of college visits, and I said,
how-
"What do you think
that's how
you
this
got?"
happened, yeah.
And you said you think it's good.
Well, there's a long story about that. I don't want to turn this into an Uber call, but that guy very much wanted to talk, and I did not, but I felt like scared of getting another 1-star. Maybe I should talk to this guy.
Now you're gonna be so paranoid.
No, I also felt like, sometimes you talk to, this is going to sound really mean. Sometimes you talk to people and then I get the sense that maybe they don't have a lot of outlets for the things they want to talk about. So then you feel like, well, what does it really hurt me to listen to them for 10 minutes,
Yeah. There's
That's
also
what this was.
reels and memes about that. Like
Is there?
me getting into the Uber and then me getting out of the, like me getting into the Uber. Hi, how are you? And me getting out like, good luck. You should win that custody case. You're a great father.
Remember when I went with that lady from Portugal?
Yeah.
She was pretty good.
We actually did a podcast episode about lessons
Yeah.
you learned in the backseat of a car, but that
Yeah.
wasn't an Uber. That was a car service.
Right. That was different.
Yeah. Anyway, so you took these Ubers
I did, yep.
recently in this college tour. So let's kind of back it up. We've been to, between both of us, Ava has been on 7 visits. Yeah. How would you describe the kind of school Ava's looking for?
Urban setting. She wants to be in a city. She likes the hustle and bustle of being in a city and the access to public transportation to do a million different things. So that's the number one thing I would say, right? I think she's thinking of the program for sure, though not thinking of it in the same way that maybe you and I would be, right? Which would be looking at what type of internships and connections and stuff can you make. She's thinking more in terms of, does this sound like a cool program? But still,
Yeah, she's smart about it.
education, and she's a smart kid, right? So I'd say those are the top two things. I think, and a part of that whole thing is like the feel for the university. Like, what does this feel like to me? Or are kids excited to be here? Does it have a college feel, but in a city type setting?
Yeah. Which actually is not one of our main 3 points, what you just brought up, but that's kind of like a bonus point to what we're going to talk about today. When we step foot on a campus, so if you've been on college tours yourself or somewhere else, or even if you want to take it away from college and think of a city, right, or going to a new place, a resort, or, any location, when you step foot there, when you kind of get out of your Uber after you've gotten a 5-star customer rating and you step out, you immediately or pretty soon get a vibe. Like you get a feel. And this is what people are doing with you and your business as well.
Well, this is your first impression. It's a classic
first impression. Right. And it's nothing that is said. It is the energy around the brand. It is what they can quickly see and what they can feel. And so if you are an entrepreneur that is mainly online, like many of our listeners are, they're finding you on your website or on your social media. Those are the two places people are pretty much going to find you. And so what is the feel? Like what vibe are you giving off? Is it a really strong and confident vibe? Is it a relaxed and casual vibe? Is it, a fun and like upbeat vibe? Is it like a very curated, aspirational? Like what do you want to give off? And then check, is that what you're giving off?
Message sent equal message received, right?
Yes, absolutely. So so interesting. So when we get to these campuses, you do kind of feel right away like, I think I might really like this, or I'm not going to.
Yeah, which by the way starts with, so if you've never been on a college visit with a child, because most of us probably, when we went on college visits years ago, I don't know if it was the same. It probably would. I don't remember.
Think so.
I remember going on a few visits. I don't remember what the experience was. These generally start with a speaking presentation to a larger group in a larger auditorium, sort of boardroom sort of setting, right? And then we break off from there. And this starts, it sounds silly to say, right? But this initial impression starts then, right? So the room that you're in, right? Like what people are saying, how they're greeting you. Is there enough room for everybody? Like, are people, it all starts then, right? Is this a dilapidated building that's falling apart? A building that was hard to find? A building that you couldn't find a parking space for? Like, it kind of all fits together.
Absolutely. So again, translating that into your business first impression, like, is it easy to navigate? Is it easy to land on you and quickly pretty much see, like, I kind of get what this is all about. Maybe they don't know exactly the product you sell or the service you offer, but they get an understanding, like, oh, this person is here to help me, with my taxes, or this person is here to help me organize my home. Like, are they getting the right vibe from you? And is it welcoming?
Yeah.
Because you can lose people pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we have been on 7. I've been on 3 tours in New York City with Ava, New York City colleges, universities.
I didn't even know there were 3 universities in New York City.
Oh my gosh, yeah, there's way more.
I had no idea.
You've been on 2 in Philadelphia.
Uh-huh.
And then I went on 1 in Washington, D.C., and you went on 1 in Washington, D.C.
Facts.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're not going to name drop often because I don't know, probably no one will ever hear this, but what if they do and we say something, we are not going to mess our kids' life up like that. It says a lot about me.
So much fear that you have.
I know, but I was like, but we will say some good things about some of them. But there are some that we have not as good things to say about. We're going to keep those names out our mouth.
Excellent choice. Excellent choice.
So as we kind of went through this, what's so interesting is beyond that initial vibe check of like, ooh, I'm really liking this, or ooh, I'm not. And even some of the ones where we were like, I'm not. have been turned around based on the presentation and the tour.
Yeah.
And it's wild. But if the tour and the presentation were good, Ava loved the school, and so did we.
Yeah.
If they were okay or subpar, we felt okay or subpar about them.
Yeah.
Even if, and some of these schools were like big names that you would think like, that's a dream school, that's a reach school. These are the schools like, oh, it would be amazing to have a degree from there. But after going through the tour, they left us a little underwhelmed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So as I sat back and reflected on this, there's really like three big buckets that I think, three big lessons that I took from these, and we can apply them. Outside of that bonus one, you just threw in that little zinger for us of the vibe check.
Yeah, I'm a vibe kind of guy. That's the way
You're
I see
vibey.
things. Yeah, am I vibing with this or not?
I hear you say that word.
Do we
all the
share
time.
chakra or do we not?
Chakra?
Is that the right usage?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I
I heard
don't know.
someone say that the other day, and I was like, I really don't.
You heard them say sharing a chakra?
No, but the way they used it was in a way that didn't fit in my brain the right way. But then I thought I could be wrong. I don't know. There's a chance. I've never said that word, but I've never said that word out loud until right now.
It's so true.
Right.
It's so true. Yeah, we're not going to even go there because we're just going to
Okay, so
sound
keep
very
going. Yeah.
uneducated. All right. So number one, the college tours that we've been on that have done a really good job of appealing to different buyer types have been well received by
Right.
us and by other people as
Right.
well. And so we've talked a lot about sales style types. That is, what is your natural strength as the seller? How do you like to connect with people? Are you the engager? Are the educator? Are you the expert? And if you haven't taken that sales style quiz yet, make sure you go to the show notes and do it. But this is different. This is, as the consumer, how do you like to receive the information? And a good salesperson will make sure they are appealing to all of the different types. So for me, when I go, I love a story. Like, I want to hear a story. I want to hear the story of maybe people, like almost like case study stories, but I want to hear like people that have gone there, what they ended up doing, what they're doing now. Why did they pick this school? I always ask the tour guides, what other schools were you looking at? Why did you choose this school? I'm that mom that's like, I have a question. I have a question.
Yeah,
I
I
have a
asked some
question.
questions last
Yeah.
week too. Yeah.
Because I want to know their story.
Yeah.
And if I can see pieces of Ava in the story, then it's like, maybe this is a good fit.
Yeah.
What is your, like, what are you looking for when you go?
I mean, a few things, right? I can't say one thing in particular, but one thing that stands out for me, I'm an ROI guy. ROI guy. I'll say it slowly that time, but so I want to know what's
That
the
would
return
be
on
a
investment.
cute on like a little t-shirt.
Yeah.
ROI guy.
I'm gonna kick off a graphic tee line shortly.
Brian's bunch on
Who's
it.
got two thumbs? Is an
BB.
ROI guy?
Oh my gosh, you could do BB.
Yeah.
I already see the logo. The
Yeah.
backs of the bees with the
Touching,
thing.
yeah.
Almost like it looks like a butterfly.
Yeah,
That'd be
no, I love
cute for
butterflies.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
And then on the back,
And a
ROI
chrysalis.
guy.
Oh no, ROI.
Chrysalis. Okay, anyway, sorry.
So, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, why are you going to college, right? Like, you're going to college to set yourself up to do something else, right? Nobody wants, as far as I know, not many people want to be in college for 20 years and just continue to take classes. You want to take what you have to, move along, go out and do the things that you want to do, right? So I like to think of this in terms of, if I'm going to spend X to help my daughter go here, what am I getting back for X, you know? And I know there's lots of other things, and I want her to be happy, of course, and all those things, right? But at the end of the day, like, as a consumer, that sort of matters to me, you know?
Yeah. So you're
lot.
more like data's facts, figures. Like,
Yeah, but with an interesting twist, though, right? Because you're talking about stories. I also love stories, right?
Right.
I want to hear, like, if I'm asking you a question and be like, oh, well, my roommate my freshman year did this, and now she's doing this, and here's how she decided to navigate that. That works for me as well, right? But I want to know that this isn't just some imaginary thing, right? I don't care what the average GPA was and the average SAT score that applied to your school. That's great, good for you, right? And good for those kids that achieve those things. And I don't mean to downplay it, but I want to know, like, what are kids doing here that's real world, that's setting themselves up to do something outside the four walls here of this institution.
And also, I think what you want to know is like all in, how much is this going to
Oh,
cost?
totally. I want to know the number.
You know,
Yeah.
like, and like how likely, how much money do we think we'll get? You
Right.
know, can
Yeah,
she
what's
get scholarships?
Yeah. Do you
all
have
that
merit-based
stuff.
scholarships?
Right.
All those things. Like, I want to know those numbers, right? Like, I don't want to hear like, I want to see what the real numbers are. I don't want to talk in generalities and have rose-colored glasses. I want to really know what they are.
Right. And then for Ava, and I think this is probably for most kids, like she wants to know what life will look like there.
Yeah.
She wants the dream painted for her, essentially. So
Yeah.
like there is a Starbucks in the food,
Totally.
court, and you can get your latte and then you can go to class. And then after class, most kids like to hang out here. And then, here's internships. And then this is what kids do at night. And, she wants to be able to see herself
Like
there.
plug herself into the
Plug
equation.
herself in
Yep.
as she should, right? And so if you took just one of the things we were looking for, you'd be really happy if they focus so much on like, here's what you can expect to pay and here's what you're going to do after school. And I'd be really happy if I just heard all these stories of different people and why did you choose it and what was your life like and how did you grow up? I want to know like, where did you grow up? I want to hear all that. And for Ava, she would be so happy if she saw all the pieces of the puzzle, but there's 3 people in this buying decision, right?
Yeah.
And for most of our consumers, there are also multiple people in their buying decision. I know in what you do, there's
totally.
lots of decision
Totally.
makers.
Yeah. And I think that's the point, right? The point is you should be able to say, if I'm the director of admissions or whatever for a university, right? And I know that the people who give the tours, who are students, by the way, so this isn't like these are polished professionals having been doing this for 20 years, right? These are kids taking time out of their day of studying and doing other things to do this job, right? So I'm not knocking them, right? But you got to be able to provide them with the idea. Look, let's say we just keep this simple and break it down into 3 buckets, right? If I'm that director of admissions, you should be able to tell, like, air quotes, a story to somebody who wants to know the ROI piece. You should be able to tell a story to somebody who's got very specific questions about why you came here, what you're doing here, what type of kids come here, what kind of backgrounds, what kind of things do they want to study, and then tell the story from like the student activity standpoint, right?
Yeah.
Like if you could just do that, you're not going to cover 100% of everybody who comes on that tour, but you're going to get damn near 90, right?
Well,
Like,
and that translates so much
that's
to what
exactly
we do
it,
in
right.
Acorn
Yeah.
with story selling.
Exactly.
So we teach the 6 P's of sales stories, of story selling, and I like a personal story. I want to know about them as a person and where they came from and all of that. You like a proof story. You like a story that is wrapped
Show
up
me you've done
in
it before.
data that's like almost a case study. Ava likes a little bit more of, you could call it a process story. So like, what are the pieces of the puzzle? How will this work in my life? And so as a business owner, you want to think of the same thing. Give me an example of a business and I'll just kind of talk through. Like, give me
landscaping.
Oh, yes. Good one. Okay. So we just had somebody come out and quote us yesterday. And so I want to hear a story about, it was actually a very young person.
Yep.
I want to hear a story about like, how did you start? What's your background? Where did you come from? Why do you want to do this? Like, why are you personally passionate about it? Ava, not that she'd care about this, but that would be a personal story. If you're doing a process story, you want to hear like, this is how it's going to work. I'm going to come in and, I'm going to measure everything. And then I'm going to come home and I'm going to write you up your estimate. And then I'm going to come back. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out all the rock. And then I'm going to come in and kill all the weeds. And then I'm going to, and go through the steps. Like, let me see what this would look like. And you, Brian, would like a proof story. So somebody coming in and be like, oh, you know what? I haven't, and our situation, what we were asking for, this guy hadn't done it before, but like, I haven't done this before, but I've consulted on projects that do, or the person that I am apprenticing with has done this. And, what he found is if you make sure that this layer of the, barrier layer, I don't know.
That's pretty good. The barrier layer.
The barrier layer is, a half-inch thick, that is going to prevent these really hard weeds from coming up. And so while this might be a little bit more expensive in the long run, this is going to last you 10 years instead of 5. And so it's going to be a better ROI.
Yeah, right.
So you want to wrap everything up in a story. It's just which story. And those are going to appeal to different buyer types. We'll talk a little bit about this more on within the sales style quiz. So again, if you haven't yet taken that, because we're talking about your style, but then also how to communicate with different styles, make sure you do that. So that was the first point. Second point was, why do I forget the second point? Oh, do you remember this? No,
energy.
No, that wasn't the second point. Oh. The second point was building an us versus them mentality. I like how you whispered it and you didn't just say it. The
Yeah, well,
second point is kind of building that like buy-in, that community type buy-in where you feel like you're going to be a part of something. And I know you're really big on this.
oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I love the us versus them thing. I mean, that's like the best thing in the world, that the easiest way in the world to kind of foster this whole thing, right? The almost like in sports, they always say nobody likes us, nobody wants us to win, we're not supposed to be here sort of stuff.
The
But
underdog.
the underdog story, right? And I think one of the tours that we went on last week, I'm going to say the name here because it was an excellent
Say
tour.
it,
I'm
say it.
doing it. I'm going to limp. So we toured Temple in Philadelphia, and Temple, the tour guide was excellent. The tour was excellent. She answered a lot of questions. She was very knowledgeable. And one of the interesting things that she said drew her to Temple. She grew up in a city, so she wanted that continue to have that urban experience. She said she visited lots of city schools, and that she visited many that were a school in a city. And Temple was the one that she visited that felt like it was the city's school. And she said,
That's cool.
yeah, she said, this feels like this is Philadelphia's university, right? And I was like, you know what? That's kind of and it really, if you've ever been to Philadelphia, like there are multiple universities in Philadelphia, just like New York City, right? But I'd say that's pretty accurate. Like Temple is like a Philadelphia thing, right?
Yeah.
Like just everything about
Yeah,
it's
you
very
can't really
Philadelphia.
separate Temple from
Everybody's
Philly.
synonymous. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that
but
she-
it did have that the kind of like almost like a galvanizing effect, right? And then that makes you feel like you're part of something and you want to be part of something, right? And she was very honest. I mean, she was open about the pluses, the minuses, and everything in between, right? But that's you're fostering that idea of like togetherness, that coherence sort of thing.
Yeah, and everybody wants to be part of something.
Totally. Yeah.
No matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert, you want to feel like you belong.
Totally.
A sense of belonging is a basic human need. And so when you are selling something, selling that idea of when you become a customer of ours, you are a part of this thing, whether that is a community or a user of our product. There are so many different ways to do that. Sometimes you can actually name your community. Look at musical artists, Beyonce, Beehive, Lady Gaga, Little Monsters.
I did not. She calls her group Little Monsters.
Yeah. There are so many different.
Seriously?
Yeah, I believe so. Justin Bieber, Beliebers.
Yeah, no, I'm not in that group either.
You're not in that group. Yeah.
Justin Timberlake.
Deadheads.
Deadheads. I know that
Yeah.
one.
Musical artists do it, but I mean, think of cultural phenomenons. Like people attach themselves to those things. And so as a business owner, you want to do this too. I always say Acorn Fam, which is like kind of cheesy and really wasn't ever me like thinking, what am I going to name them? I just say, hey, Acorn Fam, you're an Acorn OG. Like you're a part of the thing. You speak the same language. We have a shared experience and people are attracted to that. So you really want to focus on doing that as a business owner.
Yeah, we talked about this, oh my gosh, months ago. I remember having a podcast specifically talking about how people want to be a part of a group, and it's hardwired into our brain because when, early man, right, Cro-Magnon and all this stuff, if you were outcast or excommunicated from the group, the likelihood of you surviving and living on your own in a cave is next to zero. So you've got to be a part of the group. You got to want the group to sort of wrap their arms around you, and then you do the same for them, right? So this idea of feeling like you want to be a part of something, it's hardwired into our brains, right?
Yeah.
And I know that's like a lot of way to go to say this, but I mean that's the right idea. If you want people to be enthusiastic consumers of your product or service, foster that sense of community.
Absolutely. And those are the people then that are going to be like, oh my gosh, I need to tell other people about you.
Totally.
Like I'm a part of this group and you should be a part of this group too. I felt that way also. I know you really like Temple. A tour that I was really pleasantly surprised about was Pace University in New York City. I didn't know much about Pace before we went, other than it's a university in the city. But very similarly to what you just said, we are a Pace community. We are in it together. Like they talked so much about, ways that the community get together, activities they have for students, how, yes, you're in the middle of like lower Manhattan, but there are so many ways to come together. What they also did, which I know you really like, this us versus them thing is, I mean, they would be considered like the afterthought to NYU. Just a few blocks north is NYU. NYU is this amazing school that, is this dream school for many people. And they said, like, we are not NYU and we are not trying to be
My favorite thing in the world.
NYU.
It's my favorite thing in the world.
We are trying to be us. And here's what we do differently that NYU does that you're not going to get there. Yeah. And so they really highlighted their differentiating factors. And they're not NYU. They don't have the list of grads that NYU has. They don't have the resources. They don't have the connections. But they did have a lot of really cool things. And I went on the NYU tour and they highlighted things that NYU did not highlight. And it really made me like them. And also it is that feeling of the underdog where you're like, oh, I kind of want to be with the underdog. Like, do I want to go with the established thing? And this, I think, is really important for solopreneurs, small businesses, because take me for an example, right? Who are the big names in the business coaching space? There's Amy Porterfield. You might not know a lot of these because you don't live in this world.
1 star, Amy Porterfield. I give her 1 star.
Don't say that.
I'm kidding, Amy. I didn't give you one. I'm just messing with you.
No, but like Amy Porterfield, Jenna Kutcher, even Mel Robbins. She doesn't do business coaching, but she does more. Mel. We give her a million stars. These big names. Yeah. And those people are brilliant and they have bells and whistles in their program and they probably have resources that I can't give you. But what I can give you that they can give you is me. I can give you my brain power. And I guarantee when you're doing Amy Porterfield's, Course Creator School, Digital Course Academy, I think it's called, like, you're not actually talking to Amy Porterfield. Mm-hmm. You're talking to her coaches because she's running a multi-million, maybe even billion-dollar industry or business at this point. When you're working with me, you're working with me for the most part. Like, you're getting me. Mm-hmm. And I know when I invest in people, I like to look for those, like, maybe not just starting out, but like, they've been at it for a few years. They're not like too big that they've removed themselves from the program. That's a value add because personally, I don't want to say I'm just as good as Amy Porterfield because she has different strengths than I have, but like, I feel very competent. And for whatever reason, a million different reasons, I'm not at that level and I'm happy in my sweet spot here. And I think it's a big, big thing. So use your smallness to your advantage, I would say.
This is one of the things I've done for a very long time in my career outside of our podcasting and consulting together. When I've worked for a lot of early revenue, smaller companies, small market cap, startups, and inevitably you're talking to a customer and they say, well, you can do A and B, but you can't do C, D, E, F, G, H, and I, right? Or whatever it is, right? My answer, if I don't call it out preemptively, which I think is a decent strategy at some point, you know what you're competing against, right? But you just lay it on the table and say, you know what, you're right. We're not Walmart, right? Mm-hmm. I am not Walmart. I'm not Target. We likely will never be Walmart or Target, right? They do lots of things really well. But if you want somebody who does these things better than anybody and can provide you a level of service on this finite group of things better than anybody in the industry, then I'm your guy, mm-hmm. right? And I think that's sort of like you're admitting what you're not, right? You're not trying to sort of tell somebody a story that we're just as good as University X down the street or around the corner. Like we're not even competing with them. We don't even want to be them. They do things well. They do it their way. This is how we do things here, and we believe we do this better than anybody else, right? That's like a level of confidence without being arrogant, mm-hmm. without putting somebody else down, without taking away. I don't say Walmart and Target are garbage. I would never shop there. I say they do a lot of things really well, right? Like they really do. But I do these little things better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and such a good point of you never want to tear a competitor down.
Right.
That's just a slippery slope. You don't want to go there, even if you kind of want to tear them down, or even if you feel like you have a lot of things to say. It's just not a good look.
Yeah.
Like keep it above the line, keep it classy, but saying like, yeah, you're right. They're great at that. Here's what I do well. Yeah. And Pace did a great job of that. Temple did a great job of that.
Temple, yeah.
And then the last one is...
I won't even whisper it now.
Say it out loud, baby.
Energy and excitement. Energy and effort. That's all I ask for my flag football team. Energy and effort.
Starting back up.
Cranking up.
New season. Spring. The Browns this season, this spring season.
How many of you guys, I mean, just informal poll, how many of you guys really want the Browns to win a Super Bowl? I mean, that's like everybody in the world.
I know.
Right?
You got the underdog mentality. Yeah. You should really
Jets,
give like
Browns.
A kickoff speech with underdog vibes.
Will you wear a dog mask, like a dog pound mask?
Me?
our fans need to do that.
You should give them all little dog collars.
No, I'm not so sure that's acceptable. But anyway, energy and excitement and enthusiasm, right? I mean, this is like, I've said this a million times. You guys probably heard me say it before. I worked for a guy years ago who would say, "Don't fail gym class," right? And it was like one of his most favorite things to say, "Don't fail gym class." You're going to do lots of things that are hard on a regular basis. It's difficult to be able to formulate a clinical sales message and a financial sales message. Those things can be challenging, right? Don't mess up the easy stuff, right? Having energy and excitement and enthusiasm and delivering your message, that's gym class, right? You should be able to get an A in that.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Delivery above everything else. And
Totally.
It's getting lost a bit in this digital world
Yeah.
because we can hide behind trending reels and we can have our B-roll and the words over top and, we can have pretty images and pretty websites and those things do matter. However, like at some point there will be a touch point with you. And this is actually a whole other episode I want to do, which selling is just important when someone has become your customer
Yeah.
as it is to get them to be your customer, because it's honestly how I've built. It's honestly why Acorn is a success. I really truly believe
Reinforcing
the
the
amount
decision.
of people that just keep coming back and that's why Acorn has been a success, because once they're in, you're still selling.
Yeah.
And they are going to have a touch point with you. They should have a touch point with you, whether that is in a sales call, whether that is in the delivery of the service, whether it's just in a video that they get when they join, whatever. Your energy and enthusiasm has to be top notch.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah.
It's such a bore otherwise. And that is going to make you stand out in this world where, AI and automations and all these things are starting to take over. It's the human touch that makes a difference.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, that's why, if you talk to somebody who's been a commissioned or bonus sales professional for a long time, like, I mean, I enjoy not having to travel as much. I enjoy being able to do a lot on Zoom and virtually. I think that's a great thing, right? But also, you sort of lose the ability to connect with somebody, which I think slows down the buying process for a lot of people. And that's why, right? It's because you don't have that personal connection. You can't. You can be excitable and energetic and enthusiastic via Teams and Zoom meetings, right? And you should be. But it's just not the same as being able to sit with somebody and have an excitable conversation and wherever it goes.
Yeah, but what I would say to that too, though, is like I'm not really in person with people nearly as much as you are even, and you're not traveling much. So if you are just digital, you have to find a way to bring that energy and enthusiasm in person. So, back to the college thing, the tours, the schools that we loved had excitable, energetic, enthusiastic tour guides.
Notice you didn't say 100% all the answers, knew everything about everything, right?
Not at all.
Not at all. That's like, it's so funny because we convince ourselves that you have to be the expert, and that's very important. I'm not downplaying you being the expert, but it's not at the top of everyone's list of what they're needing from you in order to buy.
Right. Just people that were happy to be there.
Yeah.
Students that were
proud
of their school. Loud, I will say, like you're leading, you bring energy.
Right, especially, and I know I don't want to get off the rails here a little bit, but if you're touring, newsflash, if you're a school in an urban setting with lots of urban noise going on, like being loud and excitable and being able to speak in short, condensed sound bites, it's pretty important if you're going to be touring the school outside. I'm just throwing it out there because we did go on one and I was like, I can honestly... I'm not hearing anything this person's saying. I don't think they're bad. I don't think they're a bad person. I just can't hear it. I've lost interest completely in what's going on here.
Yeah, but the analogy is, in the online business space, it's like the middle of a loud city.
Yeah.
That's what you are. You're operating in the middle of New York City or Philadelphia or Washington, D.C. And there's people talking all around you. And the way you rise above is with your energy and with your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Simple things like eye contact to a person or to the camera, smiling when you feel like this feels silly, you have to smile. You have to force yourself to smile on video. Yeah. The cadence of your voice, the tone of your voice, those things matter so much.
Do you remember what Ava said when we came back from Temple about how remember one thing she said to you was, we get to go. So I'm a huge sports fan. Ava told me they get to go to the basketball games, which Temple is historically a stronger basketball program than a college football program. They get to go to the basketball and football games for free. This is our daughter who I mean, she knows what a basketball is and what a football is, but she's not a huge sports fan, right? But she started talking about that because the tour guide said, oh, the basketball games are so much fun. It's right there on campus. We get all these teams that come in here. You get in there for free. You go with your friends. Like, it's a lot of fun. And Ava was like, we have to go to the basketball games for free. Like as if she were like would be a season ticket holder or something.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, but she was excited because
excited
the girl
was excited.
Yes, energy is contagious.
Yep.
And it just, I mean, above all these other things, like it's the easiest thing to do, but yet it's the thing most people skip.
Yeah.
Because they focus on getting all their ducks lined up in a row. And I mean, it is also why people fake it till they make it in a bad way, ways that you don't, in a way that you don't like it, because people will bring the energy, enthusiasm, and there's not much behind it. So we're not saying that, but you're listening to this podcast, you are a learner, you care about yourself, you care about growing, you have all the stuff to back this up. So bring your energy, bring your enthusiasm to what you have. And I will say,
Don't fail gym class.
Yeah, you mentioned Temple, I mentioned Pace. The other tour that was just really excellent was American University in DC, and it was the energy and enthusiasm of the guy in the group session and then of the tour guide that got us excited.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to go on that one.
You and Bennett just walked to the campus and then randomly would pop up when the tour stopped. So when
it's not a huge university.
No,
we weren't touring like Penn
so
State
we'd like turn a corner and there's Brian and Bennett like waving,
guys.
hi Ava, hi Ava. So when I said to her, I'm thinking we'll all go to Philadelphia. We don't. Does that work for you? And she's like, I don't care if we all go, but I do not want the whole family on the tour, which we respected for the most part.
Yeah, no, for the most part.
We did. Bennett, Emmy, and I did
You
pop
accidentally walked by. Or tracked our location.
No, it was an accident. But once we saw you, we got real close. So anyway, college visits are just like sales
90-minute sales calls.
Yeah, they really are. And I would be lying if I said I didn't think about launching an Acorn consulting arm of the business for colleges, because some of them you're like, oh, you could do so much better.
Yeah.
Could be so much better.
Yeah, especially I feel like, it's interesting, right? Because I'm being a huge sports fan, and you always see these things, and then you read these articles about like a university. A couple of years ago, Florida Gulf Coast University became famous for this, right? They had a crazy run in March Madness, which we're kind of in the Final Four of right now, right? And Florida Gulf Coast had this crazy run in March Madness. They won all these games, and then the university intuitively understood this means like people are going to be excited about this, and the amount of applications that we're going to see are going to be through the roof, right? And it turned out to be true. And then they invested in things that were going to be excitable for kids to want to go to a university at, right? And a lot of them were what I would consider to be, money spent on like
things that don't matter.
Things that don't matter, right? They don't fit my ROI model, but they certainly get kids excited and jazzed up about applying to your school,
Yeah.
And I think it makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, that's what a lot of kids are looking for that. They're looking to be a part of something, to your point earlier. What sells them and what do they want to do? I mean, for me, I've been oddly interested in dorm rooms. Like, I've been really oddly interested in this. And I guess part of it comes back to the ROI piece for me. If I'm going to pay X amount of dollars in room and board every year, what am I getting for that, right? And the other part of it is like, it's my first kid to leave home, right? Like, where's she going to live? You're sticking her in a broom closet somewhere. I don't want that. Is it going to be safe? How many locks are on the doors? How many locks does someone have to break in order to break into her room,
Yeah.
But no, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're learning a lot, and we're really...
We'll take advice if you guys have it.
Yeah. Well, and I actually, after we came back from that, I created a piece of social media content about it, and then I wrote an email about it, and I got so many responses to the email. Most of the responses were, we're in the same phase, and I 100% agree with you. The tour will make or break the school.
Yeah. Well, you even said too, if you have if you think about being in DC or Philadelphia or New York, right? If you're there in the springtime and it's a nice 65, 70 degree day and there's a breeze blowing and it's partly cloudy, I mean, makes you want to go there,
Yeah,
right?
no,
Like
they
that's
said that on the American tour. They said
oh, with
weather
all
will
the
make or break your
yeah,
tour, and we had a beautiful
all
day
the
that day.
cherry blossoms and
Yeah,
everything.
so
Yeah,
they were like, "You're gonna love our school. You're all gonna want to
right.
apply here." But it was a great tour. The
Yeah.
weather definitely helped. So more to come. We'll keep you posted on the developments. I actually tried to get Ava to do this podcast episode with me, and she was willing. However, the video aspect really just kind of messed us up because it was spring break, and I'm like, "Hey, you want to get yourself together and do the podcast?" And she was like, "No,
Not really.
I do not want to put real clothes on and brush my hair." So maybe we'll get her back on here at some point to talk about it.
She can come on here with all the hats, like when they
we
do a
could do her
signing day. Yeah,
We
yeah.
could do her signing
And they'll
day.
put like a little thing there, and then she'll be like, "I'm taking my talents too."
What do you, okay, a little off topic before we end. What do you think of the Facebook posts and the social media content where the parents talk about every school their kids gotten into and then they announce the one? Not like it's like a big drum roll, but they'll like I've seen a lot of these recently where there's like all these images of all the schools you
Applied
assume
to or whatever.
they got into. I mean, they're not going to put a school they didn't get into, I'd imagine. And then they put the one. How do you feel about that?
I will say this might. I may have an answer that may surprise you. The 5 year ago version of me would have been like, I would have pulled an eye muscle with the eye roll. No, it wouldn't have been my thing. But, I like the more that particularly Ava and Emmy have gotten into high school now, right? Like the more I see how hard they work to accomplish the things that they've accomplished. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Good for you. Be proud of your kids. Like throw it out there. Like I think that's fantastic. I'm kind of into it. I'm going to do it. I'll do it for Ava.
You'll do your yearly Facebook post.
I don't know if I've done a Facebook post in a year, maybe more. Emmy did one for me, I think on last vacation last summer on Instagram.
Oh my gosh.
On the Instagram site. But no, I think it's cool. I mean, I think, I think this, and this is the one thing where I'm definitely not like the old man version, right? I feel like people say, oh, kids don't learn the right way to do math anymore, or everything's this, or everything's. It's harder now, and maybe also because I'm so far removed from it, I don't remember the things that I learned in high school. But in my view, it is harder now, the things that kids do in school, high school, and much more competitive to get into colleges than it was 30 years ago.
Totally.
I mean, I've said this before, but I feel like if you applied to a respected large state university in the mid-90s and you had a good GPA and a good SAT score, you got in, right? I don't know many people that didn't.
Yeah, and a good SAT score was like over
1,000, 1,100, I don't know, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case. It doesn't seem to be the case. I feel like I've heard from a lot of families whose kids I think are really A-plus kids
gosh, yeah.
who didn't get into that same.
Right. So that was kind of my thing about the Facebook posts. I don't really have a strong feeling one way or the other because I agree with you. Like, it's fun to brag on your kid, and you, as the parent, see so much of what they do behind the scenes, and it's hard work. These kids are working really hard. Most kids are. But then the other side of it is, like, are we perpetuating this like apply to all these schools? And, it's very hard. Like kids, I remember hearing a story of a kid that was salutatorian of their class with like 1,500 SATs that didn't get into a Southern state university. Yeah. Ended up getting in like after they were deferred or whatever, but it's nuts. It's literally like you just throw the applications up and what lands on the desk stays. Yeah. So is it perpetuating this problem we've created for ourselves, which is like applied to 15, 16, 17, 18 schools, application pools are so high, they have to just trim so many people off. And it all ends up working out, I do feel like, in the end. But a lot of kids are getting early rejections in the beginning. I don't know. I don't have an answer.
People do apply to a lot more schools now than
it's crazy. I applied to 3.
Yeah, I know.
You were recruited, I know, so you don't really go through the same process. But I mean, I applied to Towson, Penn State, and Pitt. And Towson right away sent me back I got a full academic scholarship, and I was like, well, that settles that.
Dunsies.
I hadn't even really taken a real tour, but and like not turning that down. And I didn't even wait to hear from Penn State and Pitt. I was like, I'm going.
Good. It's funny though, you were saying about like the weather on your, we were talking about the weather. Mm-hmm. When I took my official visit to West Point, I was like a foot of snow on the ground, and it was like,
so you did not follow that rule.
It didn't set me back, no.
All right, y'all. Well, hopefully you got some good business nuggets out of this. And if you are a parent in the same season of life or will be soon,
Yeah, let us
or
know.
maybe if you're ahead of
Strength
us,
in numbers.
we'll take
Yeah.
your advice as well.
If you're a dean or a
If you
director
happen to
of
have
admissions
connections at any of those 3 schools we mentioned,
and you want to talk about a quick, brief 3-hour workshop on sales training for your tour guides,
yes.
hit me up on the
Oh
gram.
yeah, actually,
Hit me up on the gram.
I talked to 1 or 2 people that work at private high schools, and I was like, we would love to come in and do some consulting and workshopping
Yeah.
on that, because sales skills, no matter how you're using them, are
Yeah.
the same across the board, which is really liberating in my opinion.
Totally.
You don't have to learn something different if you're an entrepreneur
Yeah.
or you're working corporate or you're working in education or nonprofit, same thing.
Yeah. Plus, I love helping like young people develop new skills and get good at things. I feel
Yeah,
like it's a
that'd be
personal
fun.
thing for me.
That'd be fun. All right, we will be back next week. If you haven't taken the sales style quiz, make sure you do. And we'll be back soon. Bye,
And it's
everybody.
springtime. Get your shorts out.